Are you ready for a healthy, high-protein twist on the classic ice cream sandwich that we've been eating since we were kids? I'm excited to show you how easy it is to make my chocolate vanilla cottage cheese ice cream sandwiches. They're made gluten-free with almond flour and tapioca flour, and they're naturally sweetened with maple syrup. And we blend down the texture of the cottage cheese so it's rich and creamy and absolutely delicious. So you get the health benefits of highly nutritious cottage cheese with the classic sweet flavor of an ice cream sandwich. And we can do it all without an ice cream maker. Now let me preface that cottage cheese ice cream is not going to taste the same as regular ice cream, and it's not going to stay as creamy once it is completely frozen. So once you make your cottage cheese ice cream, you will need to let it set out on your counter and maybe thaw for about 10 to 15 minutes, and then it will be the perfect creamy consistency. We're going to begin by making our gluten-free chocolate sandwich cookie layers. And we're going to start with 2 cups of almond flour, 2/3 of a cup of tapioca flour, 1/4 a cup of cocoa powder, 1/4 a cup of coconut oil, and as our natural sweetener, 1/4 a cup of maple syrup. And we'll also add 2 tablespoons of coconut sugar, 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract, and 1/2 teaspoon of salt. And then we'll simply mix these together until well blended. And you'll know it's the right consistency when it holds together as a ball in your hand. This recipe will make 2 8x8-inch cookie layers. Now you can just use an 8x8-inch cake pan, or you can use this pan here that's an 8x8 that has a removable bottom. And this pan is actually really cool and convenient. Now what I really like about this pan is that our ice cream will freeze at a perfect 90-degree angle, whereas the cake pans are at slightly off 90-degree angle, but they'll still work just fine and it will taste delicious. So if this is all you have, this will absolutely work. But I'm going to show you how to make it with this fun pan. So we're going to begin by covering the base with parchment paper. So you'll just cut a piece of parchment paper that's roughly square and then place our metal plate down on top of it. And then we're just going to simply fold up all 4 sides. This parchment paper will make it super easy for working with the ice cream. And now we just simply flip it over and then lower it down into our pan. And then we'll give it a quick spray just around the edges with some non-stick spray. I'm just using coconut oil. Now ideally you would use 2 pans so that you could cook both cookie layers at the same time. But if you only have 1 pan, you can just cook one right after the other. So we're going to take our dough, and the first thing we need to do is divide it into half. So if we just kind of mash it all down so it's in one piece here, and then with our spatula we can just eyeball and divide it into half, and then we can scoop out half of our dough. And then to make it easiest for spreading around in our pan, I'm going to go ahead and start to spread it a little bit in my hands, and then divide it roughly in half again, and roughly in half again, and roughly in half. So I basically 4 quarters. And then you just simply spread the dough around in the bottom of the pan. And it's nice and soft and really easy to work with. Might not seem like it now, but you'll have plenty of dough to cover your 8x8-inch pan. And then once I have it generally distributed, I'll go ahead and take my spatula and go in and smooth it down even more. And I really want to push the dough all the way into all the corners, because that will create a nice seal for containing the ice cream. And you want to spread it out as evenly as you can. Now this is ready to go into a 350-degree oven for 10 minutes. To make our vanilla cottage cheese ice cream, you're going to need 1 24-ounce container of cottage cheese. And you can use low-fat, non-fat, small curd, large curd, whatever your preference. 24 ounces equals about 2 2/3 of a cup of cottage cheese. And as our natural sweetener, we're going to add 1/3 a cup of maple syrup. And we'll add 2 teaspoons of vanilla for flavor and 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Now, if anyone in your household is anything like a few people in my household, the texture of cottage cheese is not their favorite, but blending it first in an upright blender or here in our food processor will totally eliminate that texture. So we'll put on our lid and let this run for a minute and 2 until it's smooth and creamy. And then you may want to stop halfway and just scrape down the sides to make sure everything gets nicely blended. Ooh, that looks amazing. Do a quick quality control pinky test. Now this is the perfect time to stop and do a quick taste test so you can measure whether or not it's sweet enough for you. If you'd like to have it a little bit sweeter, you could go ahead and add another tablespoon or 2 of the maple syrup. So now we can assemble our ice cream sandwiches. And I have 2 crusts here that I baked in my square pan, and I went ahead and just left the parchment paper with them. So we're gonna go ahead and just lower our base down into our pan. And then we're gonna do a little bit of folding that's gonna make this go in nice and neat. So what you'll do in your corners is just find those 2 fold lines and then just bring them up together once they meet. And then naturally it's going to form a triangle. So you'll just give a little score line on that triangle. So same thing, we'll do this to all 4 corners. We'll just let this come in along those 2 fold lines and then give a little score line. So now we'll take our pan and then we'll just lower this down inside our pan. Now as we lowered it, you can see how the paper naturally folded along our creases. And to make it a little bit easier, go ahead and just tear out at each of these corners. And then you can very easily just kind of fold your paper back on itself to help it stay out of the way. Okay, didn't know there'd be a little bit of origami involved in these ice cream sandwiches. So now we can simply pour in our delicious vanilla cottage cheese ice cream. And this smells so good. And you can see it's just this really nice thick consistency and really easy to pour and to spread. And we just want to gently spread the ice cream around in our pan. Now we're going to just do a simple shimmy with our pan just to help spread out the ice cream. Now I have my top layer and it looks like I do have just a little bit of crack on this corner, which is not a problem. So to make things easier, I'll go ahead and just lift that off. So I'm going to go ahead and just lift this off and gently place it on top of our ice cream. And then we can very easily just lift in this little corner piece. And now we'll just gently push this down so that we don't have any big air pockets underneath. Now we'll want to put this into our freezer for at least 2 or 3 hours or until it's frozen solid before we try and cut this into our sandwiches. Now we want to get our melted chocolate ready for when we do cut those ice cream sandwiches so that we can quickly dip them while they're still very frozen. So you can just pour about a cup of your favorite chocolate chips and a tablespoon of coconut oil into a microwave safe bowl. And then we're going to microwave this for 30 seconds. So after 30 seconds, we'll take it out and then just give it a quick stir. And it won't be totally melted yet, so we're gonna stir it first, and then we'll put it back in the microwave for about, another 20 seconds, and then it will be ready to go. Okay, that looks really good. I'll give this a quick stir, and that looks perfect. So I have a batch of the ice cream sandwich that I made earlier that has had time to freeze. Now you could cut these into rectangles or squares, whatever your preference. I really like that rectangular shape, and I found that cutting this into 18 works really well. So the first thing we need to do is cut it into thirds. And so if you kind of take 2 fingers, you can kind of adjust your fingers on one edge till it looks like that visually it's divided into thirds. So once you do, go ahead and just make like a little score line with your knife. And you can even go across, just make a little score line. And then what I found works best is if I poke the knife in the middle and then push it down towards the outside, that gives me a nice clean straight cut. So I'll go ahead and push down the center here and then just push down towards the outside. I'll do the same thing down on this line and then spin it around and do the same thing out to this edge and out this direction as well. Now we want to cut them into 6 pieces this direction. So we're going to do that by first cutting the whole thing in half. So again, we'll give ourselves just a little score line, slice down, and then each of these pieces will get cut into thirds. So now we have these super fun rectangular ice cream sandwiches. Now you could absolutely just serve and enjoy these as is, or you can make them a little extra special by adding some chocolate to the top. So we're going to simply take one of our sandwiches, turn it upside down, dip it in our chocolate, raise it up, put it down onto our plate, and then we could either decorate the top with some chocolate sprinkles or with some mini chocolate chips. So let's try that again. Take it upside down, just dip it in our chocolate, raise it up, and then remember to open your jar before you start. Sprinkle some chocolate chips on top. Ooh, yum. And there you go. And then one more method, which I think is really fun, is to actually just drizzle the chocolate across the top so it can kind of ooze down over the sides of the sandwich. So I found it's real easy to just pour some of the melted chocolate into a little squeeze bottle. And then we can just simply drizzle our chocolate back and forth across the top of our ice cream sandwich and purposely letting it run over the edges. Nice. And then we can go ahead and add some of our sprinkles to the top. And then we have a fun, delicious ice cream sandwich. Now I've been so patient and waiting to try these. That is so yummy. And has that classic chocolate flavor, but then that smooth vanilla ice cream. And then I love having the extra chocolate on top with the little crunch of the sprinkles. Now, honestly, I think that tastes even better than the traditional ice cream sandwich and certainly has a lot more nutritional value. Now, this is a treat and of course should be eaten in moderation, but at least you know you're eating something that is not only emotionally satisfying because it's an ice cream sandwich, but it's also physically satisfying. By combining the protein of the cottage cheese and the almond flour with the carbs, it's going to help minimize any blood sugar spike. I'm going to show you how you can make these ice cream sandwiches extra special and nostalgic by rolling them in some parchment paper. If you cut your bars similar to mine, then a paper that is 5 inches by 6 inches will work great for you. So what you do is just take your parchment paper and we're going to take our ice cream bar, turn it upside down, and then we're going to essentially fold it like they do the blocks of butter. So we're going to start on one end and fold that up. And then we're going to bring this side up and let it fold around on one end. Bring the other side up, let it fold around on the other end. And then we want to let it come up and over. And then crease the top, crease the top. There's one side. So now to repeat on the other side, fold up the bottom, bring one flap over, bring the other flap over, make it flat on top, and then crease, and then crease, and then we can fold them both over each other like that. So once the paper is creased, it does a pretty good job of staying in place. I tried using some tape to hold it in place, but that didn't work. So I found that just by taking a simple little string, you can just wrap it around from the bottom up, and then just tie a simple little square knot bow. And then we'll go ahead and trim the tails. And now you have this super adorable ice cream sandwich. And the paper is actually functional because it helps you hold on to the sandwich as you're eating it so it doesn't melt all over your hands. If you need extra help, just go ahead and pull out a stick of butter from your fridge and unfold the wrapper and then see how it folds back together. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today in my kitchen to make these fun ice cream sandwiches. And if you'd like to see the full recipe card for this video, I've included a link in the video description below, and it's on my website, gentletummy.com. And I invite you to like and subscribe to my channel. And if you know someone else who would love to have a nostalgic vanilla chocolate ice cream sandwich made with cottage cheese and nutrient dense, then please share this video with them. And I cannot wait to have you hang out with me again in my kitchen next time.